Hey guys, we're just gonna wait for people to jump on. Once you jump on here, say hi, let me know you're here. I'm really excited about the topic of being overexcited, our dogs being overexcited tonight. So it's kind of it's a really frustrating thing a lot of people deal with, is this overexcitement that our dogs can bring into like every situation out there. So welcome. Hey Kimber, how are you doing? I hope you are doing well. I know it will like tell me who's on every once in a while. You guys, I still have no idea how these all work. Hey Caitlin, how are you doing? So we've got a couple minutes till we get started. And I lost everything in my brain. It's gone. I have my one pup underneath my desk. That's her favorite spot to be. She goes and she sleeps underneath my desk anytime I'm working. And then I always have Skippy, who's hanging out right behind me. Listen carefully because you might get to hear her snoring. Recently we've started kicking her out at night because she snores so loud that it keeps us awake. So dogs are fun. We're gonna get started here in just a minute. Yeah. There should be a link attached that has the guide or the handout that goes with this live. And it should also, I posted it in the group, so you should be able to find it there as well. Hey Kathy, how are ya? It's letting me know some of you guys are here, not all of you, so sorry if I don't say hi. Okay. Hi Kate, how are you doing? Okay, we are gonna get started. So we've got a lot to talk about and I want to be able to get through everything in the next half an hour. So we're gonna talk about the overexcitement that dogs can have, especially as people come to the door. So last week we talked about desensitizing our dogs to the sound of the doorbell, which the goal there was to have that doorbell not mean so many exciting things, because typically, at least in my experience with my dogs and so many people that I've worked with, that doorbell rings and our dogs just kind of like go crazy, and we already have this excitement or this energy that's going through the house because that doorbell rang and our dogs are excited and we're trying to get them to stop, and we just add to this chaos. So that doorbell desensitization, the goal was for the doorbell not to really mean anything at all. The doorbell rings, and now the goal is that the dog, maybe we've conditioned to go to the bed, or maybe we've just really just ask them to quiet, because I don't really think it's fair not to have our dogs ever bark, but when we ask them to stop is when what we really want. So now that we've done that desensitization, the next step that we have to do is start to teach the dogs what we want as people come into our home. And this is going to look different for everybody's home. So whatever you're hearing here, you can take and apply in different ways in your different situations. So with my kids are old enough, they're not napping anymore, but when they were napping, there was no flexibility. The doorbell would ring, I'd tell my dogs quiet, and there was no barking. Now when the doorbell rings, they can bark a few times before I ask them to quiet. So you get to kind of make this your own from here on out, whatever works for your situation. So that doorbell rings, and now we're going to go ahead and invite people into the home, whether it's planned or not. We need and want our dogs to be able to kind of just chill. Is that right? That is like the ultimate goal. So I just want to, I'm trying to think of how to say this. Oh, so thing about dogs is they don't generalize situations. So when I am teaching someone about dogs jumping up or even barking or whatever it is that we're doing, the dogs don't generalize that experience. So they can't just go, oh, I jumped on a kid, I got corrected for it. I don't jump on kids. I don't jump on anybody. What we have to do is give them opportunity again and again and again to have that opportunity to generalize that, oh, we don't jump on anybody. So the same goes with our door etiquette. We have to give them the opportunity to learn what to do. We've got to give them the opportunity to fail and the opportunity to really learn and generalize that it doesn't matter what's going on. If people come in the door, or if my mom is trying to get a package from the UPS guy or whatever is going on right then and there, we have to really help them generalize their whole doorbell and their whole door etiquette experience, because we can have like 2 or 3 really good ones in a row, and then we might have 2 or 3 bad ones in a row as we are working through these experiences to teach the dog what we want or what we expect when we are working with people through the door. So there are a few different things that we can do here. I was working with someone at the beginning of the year, and she was struggling with a lot of aggression or more reactivity. The dog was really afraid of people that came into the home, and so they were having some issues with the dog. They were having issues with the dog freaking out when people came in the door. And so they were able to, they put a post-it note. That was all that she needed. She put a post-it note on the door that says, ignore my dogs. Because she had one dog that was like wild and crazy when people came in the door, and there was one dog that kind of was really nervous and scared and skittish when someone came in the door. She said that made the biggest difference because people would come in. She says, ignore my dogs, or she didn't even have to say that. They'd come in, they ignore the dogs would calm down within a couple of minutes or seconds because no one's giving them any of this feedback. And by feedback, I mean, like if people come in and the dogs are so excited and they're like, oh, hey, puppy, and they're like feeding into it. Because I know like when my in-laws come over, I've got one dog who goes crazy and she just wiggles and whines, and she's just Oakley, and that's Oakley. My mother-in-law kind of will get excited with her. My husband used to get really excited with her. Now that she's like almost 8, they're all like, she's really loud and annoying. And I'm like, yeah, that's kind of just what her feedback loop has been. We come home, she gets all excited and whiny, and people give her attention. So what we're wanting to do is stop that attention. So if we're constantly having to chase them and trying to hold them back, and people are like, oh, hey, puppy, 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 we aren't really giving them the opportunity to learn how to be chill when people come through the door. So one way we can do it is just by having everyone ignore your dog as they come in. No looking, no talking, no touching, nothing like that. It really can help a lot of dogs bring themselves down very quickly. I will teach a settle command. I taught my last puppy, sorry, Oakley. I taught my last puppy, Skippy, she's 3 now, the settle, like on command. It's been one of my favorite things that I've done with her. It really is, so when someone comes in the door, Skippy is getting excited, and I'll tell her settle, and she brings herself down, she goes and sits in front of the person, and then they can pet her if they want to. So we can really teach the settle on command, and I will add a video onto the group on kind of how I teach it and go through that process. When I'm teaching settle though, I don't want to teach it directed at the door because it's going to be too exciting right there. So we're going to teach it somewhere where it's way less excitement, and then we'll be able to use it as the excitement builds as people come in the door. So as I was teaching Skippy, We started when she was, she'd run in the back door and she'd jump on all of the furniture. And so I was like, that has to stop. And then we worked on it. And one day my sister walked in the door and Skippy like lost her mind. She's like, oh my gosh, a person's here. And she was so excited. And I was like, Skippy, settle. And Skippy like dropped to the ground and was still for like 5 seconds. And then she was up and wild and crazy again. But that's the moment I knew that she understood what this settle command meant. And we were able to then go back and we started working on that settle as people came in the door. She was my demo dog, so she was out in the shop working with me a ton with people. And so then we were working out in the shop. So like I said, when dogs don't generalize. So it was Skippy learned that she had to settle when I asked her on command when she came in the back door. And then she learned she had to settle on command when people came through our front door and then into the shop. And while I was working in the shop, and anytime anyone said anything to her, we worked on this settle command. And it is by far one of my most favorite verbal commands I can give my dog. So we can ignore, we can give a settle command, or we can condition the dog to go to the bed, either by a verbal command or by just the doorbell. So if you want to condition the dog to go to their bed with the doorbell ringing, we're going to kind of go back to like what we were doing with the desensitization. We're going to hit the doorbell. We're going to tell the dog to go to their bed. We're going to take them over. I do a quick sit stay, and then I'll release them off of the bed. And I'm just going to do that again and again and again, just as like if I was teaching that place command the same way. Now, most people will tell me this is like, okay, I can send my dog to their bed and they'll stay there. But as soon as I open the door and I let people in, my dog loses their mind. They can't stay there. It gets wild and crazy. And so I just want to let you in on my little, I guess it's probably not a secret, but it's my most favorite thing that I can do when I'm teaching place command and letting people come into the home. So I kind of have a mixture of what we do as I'm training a new dog. At the very beginning, when I'm starting out this new process, we've done some, like, we're not excited about the doorbell anymore. Now I always will condition to go to the bed. So I'll have like a 4-foot leash attached to something pretty heavy duty so the dog can't pull it anywhere. I've had people who I'll use like a coffee table. I've had people that use like a kettlebell. It doesn't really matter as long as, especially if you have a large dog, as long as they can't pull it over or drag it anywhere. We want this to be somewhere that they are very, very stuck. So I'm always going to have that leash right there next to their bed. I'm going to tell them go to their spot, place, whatever command you use. And then especially if my dog is super overexcited or they are more anxious, maybe growly, things like that, I'm going to have a leash dragging and I'm going to go to your spot. I'm going to pick up that leash. I'm going to take them over to their spot, clip them on that 4-foot leash that's attached to something. I'm going to tell them settle and I'm going to go walk to the door. I'm going to open it. I'm going to close it and I'm going to go walk away. Now I'm going to wait for my dog to calm down on that tether. So here's the most important thing. There might not be anybody, we're going to practice this. Like I said, they don't generalize. So we get to practice so that they can have success. So that doorbell's going to ring. We're going to take them to their doorbell or to the bed, tell them settle. And then I go to the door, I open it. I maybe talk to my imaginary friend that's out there. I close the door and then I'm going to go about my business until the dog is calm and relaxed. So when we put them on a tether with the settle command, I like to have them lay down and calm for 30 minutes before they come off the tether. So that's a really important part because some people will just take their dog to the tether. Their dog kind of goes wild, crazy. They'll throw little temper tantrums and all that fun stuff. And people go let them off while the dog's still in this really heightened state of excitement. And we see them then we let them go and they're going to go to the door and they're like freak out and they're amped up. So the goal of this place with that tether and a settle command is they go there, they learn how to calm themselves down and then they can come off. I like to have them calm for a good 30 minutes before I allow them off their spot. So I'm going to do this over and over and over again. Oh, the doorbell just rang. It is the UPS guy. They're leaving a package. I am going to tell my dog to go to their spot. I'm going to take them over, clip them on, settle. I'm going to go open the door, bring my package in, close the door, and then I'm going to just let my dog figure it out. So I'm going to ignore completely. Some dogs will sit there and bark. Some dogs will like whine. I try and go do something else because I don't like to listen to it. Maybe I'll go take my package to the kitchen and start unpacking whatever it is. But I don't let my dog off of that tether until they've been calm for 30 minutes. So if it takes them 45 minutes to calm down, fine. And then I will set a timer for 30 minutes once they've calmed down, and then they can come off when they're in this calm state. So what we're really doing here is conditioning. The doorbell rings, we go chill for a little bit, we learn how to calm down. And with my new dogs, that's what we're doing, because they're not going to go say hello to people until they are calm. That becomes the big rule in our home. Is if the dog is in this amped up state of mind and we're allowing them to rush up to people and say hello, or people are like, oh, hey, how's it going? And they're amping them up more, we're going to keep having these issues with the doorbell and the door, because it is the energy coming into the home, and the energy already in the home is going to be increased and exciting. And so what we really have to do is go back and say, we don't say hello to other people until we are calm. So I'm going to teach them to go to their spot. They're going to go on that tether. I'm going to tell them settle, and I'm going to go do my thing. So that if that means I have guests that come in and we go sit down in the other room, or your bed might be in the room where you're going to be sitting and chatting, that's totally fine. Whatever you want to do is fine. They can be watching you sit there and chat. They just don't get to go up and say hello. So my dogs sometimes will like sit there and shake because the person's in there and they're so excited, and I'm not going to let them off of that spot until they actually are calm. And that's when I will invite them over to go say hello. So they'll go say hello, and then if they start getting amped up when they go over to say hi, I'm going to ask them to settle and bring them back down. If they can't, I'm going to take them back to their spot, and we're going to restart that settle on a tether. So let me know with like a wave or a like, or does that make sense? Kind of how we're trying to set the dog up for understanding what calmness we're looking for when people come into the home. Is that clear, or do you want me to describe it differently? I just, I'm not quite sure how it tells me when people are saying things. Sorry, guys. Okay, I'm not saying anything, but I don't really know. I'm still learning how it works. I can see people's names on here, but I don't see anybody talking, so sorry. Okay, so if it doesn't make sense, let me know later on. I can come back on and re-clarify. I want to talk about what overexcitement is. So when I'm saying overexcitement, what I really am talking about is anything that brings the dog into this kind of heightened level of state of mind. So this can be like they're crazy over the top, freaking out, just like excited that somebody's in our home, and they're barking and whining and wiggling and all over the place. That is what I would consider overexcitement. What else I consider overexcitement is barking and growling, and maybe their hackles are up. They might be charging, but they also might be retreating. That is also a level of like overexcitement that I would describe as overexcitement. And so either way, whatever your dog is doing that is bringing that energy level up, we're going to do the same process, because whether they are over the top crazy and excited and they're so happy people are in the home, or they're like terrified and afraid and they just are like, get out of my house, we're going to go ahead and treat it the same way. because it is this level of excitement. It's this level of mind. And I always tell my puppy class clients that when we're starting to teach the settle command, or we're looking at the zoomies in the evening when they start kind of going crazy. It's been fun and exciting and we love watching them, and then they get a little bit older and they get a little more intense in their zoomies, and maybe now they're starting to like jump on you and bounce off and kind of go crazy. So what I tell them is, when our dogs are up here in this mind space where they're kind of just big and overexcited in any way, they don't make good choices. They just really can't. They kind of lose like everything in their brain. And so what I really like to do is start conditioning that settle command, where we can say settle and it brings them down all on their own. It makes things so much easier because we have dogs that we're playing with and we can tell them settle and they can bring themselves down, and we can kind of stop if things are starting to get too crazy. But dogs that are up here in this excited state of mind, whether it's overexcitement, whether it's anxiety, whether it's aggression, whether it is fear, whatever it is, they are not going to make good choices. And so we have to help them learn how to make those good choices. And we do that by, I really like to take them to their bed or, and do that conditioning. So, what else was I going to say? I've got my notes right here. Hold on, guys. Sorry. Okay, so in the guide, I also have attached some links. So in the first one, the first section of that handout, it's going to say let them sniff. So there's a lot of things we can do specifically for the doorbell and when people come into the home. But what we got to do is move back, and we've got to do things to bring the dog down on an everyday level. So I work with a lot of people with dogs with reactivity and aggression, and I was working with somebody's German Shepherd, and this dog was like pretty aggressive, and she joined into my online program, and the second weekend I asked her how things were going, and she's like, man, we started doing some brain work, some sniffing with the dog, and she said 80% of the aggression was gone just by implementing something simple. So there is a workshop that goes in depth into what I mean by canine enrichment and working the brain. So you're welcome to go through and watch that. It's maybe 45 minutes, an hour long, where it kind of goes over what enrichment looks like, what it's for, and how it really does benefit our dogs. It's something that I have started doing over the last few years. So if you're former clients of mine from a while back, this is something that I started doing probably during pandemic, was when I started learning a lot about it and kind of applying it more. So reach out if you have questions about it. I worked with this husky. So they brought this husky, her name is Zoe, and she's probably the most neurotic dog I've ever met. They had rescued her. She was like starving when they brought her home, and they spent a year kind of just like, they're like, we fattened her up, and we just expected that, you know, her neuroses would start decreasing, because we loved her, but it wasn't happening. So they brought her to me, and they're like, this is kind of our last chance. Like, if we can't get this figured out, I don't think we can support her in the way that she needs to be. So they were doing private work with me. So we met on a week one, and we went over the week one homework, and then I dove deep into this canine enrichment, and I said, this is something I want you to really, really do with her. And then we had a 2-week break, and then when I saw her the next time, so 3 weeks later, I was like, is this the same dog? And she's like, no, like it was like night and day difference between this dog's mental capacity and the ability for this dog to just chill and be. So a lot of enrichment, there's tons of different things you can do, but I really, really, really like to involve the nose. The sniffing really, really, really relaxes them, and you can do a little bit of sniffing, and the goal for enrichment is for them to do the activity with us, or we've facilitated it, and then they're going to go sleep for a couple hours. If they're not sleeping for a good couple hours after it, we know that that wasn't enough of it, or it wasn't something that worked their brain well. So there's a lot of trial and error when it comes to some of the brain work. I love snuffle mats. That's how I feed my dogs. It just reduces behaviors like none other. I'm busy. I've got little kids, so morning and evening they have a snuffle mat that allows them to get that sniffing done. And then we play a lot of hide and seek. I play hide the ball. I mean, I had one person tell me, they're like, we hide sardines in our garage for our dog. And I was like, that's really smelly. I don't think I would do that, but okay, cool. And so that's what I told the lady with the husky, Zoe the husky. I was like, that's what he said he did. And she's like, okay, interesting. She comes back the next time. She goes, I went and bought cod pieces that were frozen from Costco, and I cut them up and I hid them in my yard. And she said the dog would watch her and she would wander around and she'd hide it all over the place. And that would keep Zoe busy for an hour, and she'd come in and she'd sleep the rest of the day. So when we're looking for enrichment and smelling and sniffing, we're really looking for the dog to actually be tired. Because if it's not tiring them out and they're not sleeping for a good hour to 2 hours afterwards, we need to do or try something different or give more of what we're doing. So when we're looking at enrichment, when I say let them sniff, like getting out and spending time, it doesn't have to be every single day, but the more we can let them smell, whether it is working for their food, whether it is looking for their favorite toy. In the winter, I've got one golden. She has got this like hot dog looking toy, and I'll throw it out into the snow and she'll look for it for 45 minutes before, and she won't stop until she finds it. She comes in and she's tired. I'll throw the ball out there for my other dog into the deep snow, and then she looks for it until she finds it, and then she's tired and sleeps. So there's lots of fun stuff you can do as far as enrichment goes to really work the dog's brain. So, physical exercise is so important when we're working through behaviors, but that mental stimulation is probably 10 times more important than that physical exercise. So the next slide on there it talks about teaching our dogs what calm feels like. So if you think about this, and we maybe, like people with anxiety, like I've had anxiety for most of my life, and when I went on my first anxiety med that actually did something and worked for me, I was like, wow, okay, this is what normal people feel like. When we have a dog that's so amped up all of the time and they've never felt like what this calmness feels like, we've got to teach them. So we kind of have to backtrack and go, this is what it feels like to sit and do nothing. This is what it feels like to just be. And so there is an activity, there's a link on that will take you to our Calm Canine workshop, which teaches you how to teach our dogs to be calm. We start with like 0 distractions, and then we'll work up to the biggest distractions that you can. This is how I have a group of 30 dogs in a big group setting, and they come in, and the first 10 minutes, maybe things are kind of exciting the first week, and then one by one, I watch all the dogs lay down nice and calm next to their owners, and I know who's doing this exercise and who isn't. It's a really powerful exercise. So go watch that, follow through with it exactly. It's a simple exercise, but it has to be done in the correct way for it to be so powerful. But we really are just going to teach our dogs how to be. I've met a few dogs who are born just calm. I had one person that was like, something's wrong with my dog. And they were telling me the dog's just like so calm. And I was like, you know, you might just have gotten lucky, but you might take them to the vet and make sure nothing's wrong. And like, we already went to the vet and they told us we were just lucky. And I was like, yeah, you're lucky, like enjoy it, because that is not most people's experience. So we have to teach our dogs what calm looks like and how it feels. So if your dog you come home and you're like, okay, we went and did our thing. Now I want to sit down and watch TV and relax. And your dog it doesn't have that off button. They're just up and moving around, and you know, maybe they'll fall asleep for a minute, but if you move even a teeny bit, your dog's like, oh, hey, how's it going? And they're ready and excited to interact with you again. Sometimes they're just living in this like perpetual, like go state. And we just have to bring it down and teach them how to just be calm. So you can go watch that workshop. I would highly recommend it, especially if you're going to have some pretty crazy and fun, you know, family over For the holidays, this can be something that will be really helpful to you. You should see some benefits fairly quickly. If you have questions about it as you're working through it, please feel free to reach out. The last thing I do want to talk about as far as overexcitement goes, again, it can be just crazy out of our mind excited that people are here. It can be a fear thing. Maybe they've got hackles and growling and we've got more aggression. We really just have to advocate for our dogs. So if people coming over during the holiday season and your dog really is just like, I don't love people, or they don't love kids, then there's nothing wrong with putting them in their kennel in a safe space or in a bedroom or whatever it is that they prefer. I mean, if they don't want to say hi, we shouldn't be forcing it. So I know when we have tiny kids over, Oakley just goes in our bedroom and she gets to go sleep in there in peace. She's happy and everything is good and wonderful. So if you have a dog that is more fearful, we can do some things to kind of make them so they're maybe not barking and charging. But we also want them to know that when the doorbell rings, if you go sit on your bed or you go to your kennel, the door will stay open. It's all good and wonderful. No one's going to talk to you, look at you, touch you, things like that. So we really just need to have that level of advocating for our dog. So I'm working with somebody right now who has a dog that growls at people every time they come in, and it was really just like an interesting case, because they sent me a video and I was like, okay, yeah, that dog is uncomfortable. But then the person would move away and the dog like followed them with a wiggly body, and it was just like the weirdest thing I've ever seen, because the dog wanted attention and affection, but it didn't want it at the same time. And I was watching this video and the guy had told this person, hey, back up, she's not comfortable. And the guy kept there like rubbing this dog, and the dog was like backed up into kind of a corner. And I told him, I was like, you need to be even more vocal. I know it doesn't feel good to tell people to knock it off, but if she would have bitten him, it would have been his fault. I know a lot of people don't like to hear things like that, but really, when we don't advocate for our dogs, or we don't advocate enough and something happens, we can't put that blame on the dog. So let me know if you want more information on advocating for your dog, but really, when it comes to this overexcitement, whether it's at the door, whether you're seeing people out in the park or whatever it is, we're going to teach them what calm feels like. We're going to really work that brain, and then we're going to give them a lot of opportunities to practice. It is going to be setting them up. So if you have, 10 friends that will stop by every 10 minutes for, a day, every 10 minutes, and you're going to do the same process over and over again, all in a row, you're going to get that generalization a lot quicker than if you only see people, every once a month. So if you can set it up so you have a day where you're just like, hey, this is what we're doing today. The doorbell's going to ring. You're going to follow through. The dog's not going to get any attention until they're calm. And if you can move through it, the quicker you move through it, the better generalization you're going to get. So let me know if you have questions about any of this. I know there was a lot of information. The replay will be up on the Facebook group. I did post the guide or the handout with all the information on the Facebook page. Thanks for jumping in and being here. I hope you found some good information, and let me know how it looks when you start applying it. So as you're working through some of these things, feel free to jump on here and in the comments, bring questions or comments or successes or frustrations, all that kind of stuff. So if you are dealing with things as you're working through it, let me know. I'm here to help support you. I know this is kind of just a lot of information, but hey, quiet. Good. So you get to hear the doorbell, and my dog sit. Good girl. Down. Stay. So quiet, and that needs to be no more barking. So that is something we've been working on again a little bit this week. But that is the goal, is to just bring that quiet down. We've worked through that doorbell desensitization again and again and again. Now they get excited with that doorbell ring, and then we're able to bring them down very quickly with that bark. And then Skippy's right here in that settle, like completely settled. So I will put that settle command video on the Facebook page too, but that's one of my most favorite things because it does help with the doorbell. Okay guys, I will talk to you guys later, and I hope you guys have a really happy holiday season, and I'll see you, I think I will have my next live like the 2nd of January. So I'll ask people what you guys would like for that. I'll kind of go through things and put a poll out there and see what you guys want to chat about in a couple weeks. I'll talk to you later.